Part 1. Something is broken in the sky above us. Right now, at this very moment, ships are appearing in places they have never been. Planes are receiving signals that are pointing them in the wrong direction. Personal phones are showing locations that are hundreds of miles away from where their owners are actually standing. This is not a movie. This is not a drill. This is happening right now, in one of the busiest and most important waterways on the entire planet. And if you are someone who flies on planes or depends on goods that travel by sea, this story is about you. Stay with me, because what I am about to share will change the way you think about the invisible technology that guides nearly everything in our modern world. My name is Kundi, and you are watching Pulse America News. Today, we are going inside one of the most alarming and least talked about threats to global travel and trade. It is silent, it is invisible, and it is growing faster than most people realize. Let us start with something simple. When a pilot sits in the cockpit of a commercial aircraft, or when a captain stands on the bridge of a massive cargo ship, they need three things to do their job safely. They need to know their position, meaning exactly where they are on the map. They need to know their direction, meaning which way they are heading. And they need to know the time, because in navigation, timing is everything. Without these three data points, a pilot is blind, a captain is lost, and lives are at risk. For decades, the system that has provided these three data points to pilots, captains, and billions of ordinary people around the world has been GPS, the Global Positioning System, a network of satellites floating roughly 20,000 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, constantly sending down signals that tell us exactly where we are. Your phone uses it, your car uses it, emergency services use it, airlines use it, shipping companies use it. It is so deeply built into the way our world functions that most of us never even think about it. We just open our Maps app and assume the little blue dot is correct. But here's the thing that should make every single one of us stop and think. That satellite, floating 20,000 kilometers above us, is sending its signal at only 100 watts of power. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the same amount of power as a single light bulb. A light bulb sending its light from 20,000 kilometers away. By the time that signal travels all the way down to the ground and reaches your phone or a ship's navigation system or an aircraft's guidance computer, it has lost almost all of its original strength. It is incredibly weak. It is almost like trying to hear someone whisper from across a football stadium. And that weakness is exactly the problem, because if someone on the ground decides to broadcast a strong signal on the same frequency that GPS uses, that broadcast will drown out the real satellite signal completely. The navigation system will pick up the fake signal instead, and it will have no way of knowing the difference. This is called jamming, and it does not require advanced technology. It does not require a nation-state with billions of dollars in military resources. It is, in the words of people who study this professionally, surprisingly easy to do, and it is becoming more and more common every single day. Now, look at what is happening in the Arabian Gulf right now. The maps coming out of this region are shocking. Ship tracking data, which normally shows clean, logical routes as vessels move through the water, is now showing something that looks almost like fiction. Ships are appearing inside countries they have not entered. Vessels sailing through the Gulf are suddenly showing up on screens as if they are located deep inside Iran. Some have appeared as far away as West Africa, thousands of miles from their actual location. Others show up on tracking systems as if they are spinning in tiny circles on dry land, far from any coastline. The data has become completely unreliable. And it is not just cargo ships. Personal devices belonging to ordinary people living and working in Qatar have been showing incorrect locations. People picking up their phones to check where they are have been getting answers that are simply wrong. This is how widespread the interference has become. It has moved beyond military and commercial navigation and is now affecting everyday civilian life in the region. The insurance company Lloyd's of London, one of the oldest and most respected names in global risk assessment, has reported that nearly 4,000 jamming events affected close to 3,000 ships in just a single week in this region. Read that again. 4,000 separate events, 3,000 ships in 1 week. The monitoring platform Windward AI, which tracks vessel movement and behavior across the world's oceans, has stated that the number of vessels being affected and the sheer scale of the interference is now completely unprecedented. There has never been anything like this before in recorded maritime history. But jamming is only half the story. There is something even more troubling happening alongside it, and it is called spoofing. While jamming simply blocks or overwhelms the real GPS signal, spoofing goes one step further. It broadcasts deliberately false GPS data. It does not just make your navigation system confused, it gives your navigation system a completely fake location, a fake time, and a fake direction. And it does so in a way that is designed to look completely real. The system receiving the signal has no alarm that goes off, no warning light, no error message. It simply accepts the false information as truth and acts on it. Defense systems around the world have used spoofing technology as a tool of deception in military operations. When you want to mislead an enemy about where you are or where they are, broadcasting false location data is an extremely effective way to do it. Weapons guidance systems can be thrown off course, drones can be redirected, troops can be sent to wrong coordinates. In the world of modern warfare, the ability to manipulate location data is a genuine strategic weapon. The problem is that the same signals being used in these military contexts are also being picked up by civilian aircraft and cargo ships. Commercial planes flying through these regions are receiving the false data just like any military target would. And unlike a military pilot who may have been trained and briefed specifically on the threat, a commercial pilot flying a passenger jet full of holidaymakers or business travelers may have no idea what is happening until something goes dangerously wrong. Think about what a spoofing attack actually does to a commercial aircraft in practical terms. The map on the cockpit screen shifts. The plane's systems begin reporting a location that is not where the plane actually is. The onboard clock, which navigation systems rely on to calculate position with incredible precision, starts showing an incorrect time. And in some cases, the spoofed signal can generate an automatic instruction that tells the aircraft to make a sharp turn. Not a gradual adjustment, a sharp, sudden turn, while flying at cruising altitude at hundreds of miles per hour. The consequences of following that instruction without realizing it is based on false data could be catastrophic. This is not a hypothetical danger being imagined by researchers sitting in university offices. This is happening right now on real flights over real parts of the world. In the skies above Ukraine and Western Russia, the situation has become so routine that commercial pilots have developed a standard response. Before entering those zones, they switch off their satellite navigation systems entirely. They go back to older methods. They use traditional radio navigation. They rely on ground-based systems. They cross-check constantly. And now, pilots flying routes over the Middle East are beginning to adopt the same practices. The GPS cannot be trusted, so they turn it off. But turning off GPS is not a simple solution. These navigation systems were introduced into aviation and shipping precisely because they made everything safer, more precise, and more reliable. Removing them from the equation does not just create inconvenience, it creates genuine risk. Crews have to work harder, the margin for error becomes smaller, and in a region as busy and complex as the Arabian Gulf, where air traffic and shipping lanes are some of the most congested in the world, smaller margins mean greater danger for everyone. There is also a legal and financial dimension to this that has not received enough attention. When a ship's GPS system is spoofed and the vessel appears to have been in a location it was never actually in, that false data becomes part of the ship's official log. Shipping companies are required to maintain accurate records of where their vessels travel. If those records show a stop in a country that is under international sanctions, even if the ship never physically went anywhere near that country, the legal implications can be severe. Companies can face investigations, insurance claims can be denied, contracts can be voided, reputations built over decades can be damaged overnight, all because of a false signal broadcast from somewhere on the ground. So where does this leave us? What do pilots and captains and shipping companies and aviation authorities do when the most trusted navigation system in the world can no longer be trusted? The answer, according to experts who have spent their careers studying this exact problem, may lie in looking backward before we can move forward. Before GPS, before satellites, navigators used a compass to find direction. They used a gyroscope to maintain a sense of orientation through movement. They used celestial navigation, looking at the stars, to find their position. They used radio signals from ground-based stations to cross-check their location. These methods are slower, they require more skill, they demand more attention and more training, but they cannot be jammed, they cannot be spoofed. A star does not broadcast a false signal, a gyroscope does not lie. The experts are saying something that would have seemed almost absurd just a few years ago. The next generation of captains and pilots, the young men and women currently training for careers in aviation and maritime navigation, may need to master the tools of the past in order to survive the threats of the future. The technology that was supposed to make the old skills unnecessary may now be making those old skills more important than ever. This is the world we are entering, a world where the invisible signals that guide our planes, our ships, and our daily lives can be targeted, disrupted, and falsified by forces we cannot see and sometimes cannot even identify with certainty. A world where 4,000 interference events can happen in a single week, and most passengers on those affected flights will never know. A world where a ship can appear on a screen to be sailing through a desert, and where getting from one place to another safely may once again depend on a compass, a clock, and a clear view of the night sky. This is Kundi, and you have been watching Pulse America News. If this story opened your eyes to something you had not thought about before, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The sky above us is changing, and the more people who understand that, the better prepared we all are.